Good day. Hello, I'm Deck Cadet Binsan Gib M. And allow me to discuss the origins and manifestations of global environmental crisis. So, according to Oxford University, there are numbers of factors have helped to create these problems, including development of technology, which has given a people a greater ability to use the environment and its natural resources, their own needs, particularly since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in human population in recent centuries, which has significantly increased population densities in many countries and lead to a significant rise in human use of natural resources. The emergence of free market economies in significant factors play a central role in decision making about production, consumption, use of resources, and treatment of waste. Attitudes towards the environment, particularly among Western cultures. According to the UNEP Global Environment Outlook 2000 report, there will be billions of cars by 2025, up from 40 million since 1945, a quarter of a world, 4,630 types of mammals, and 11% of the 9,675 species of bird are at a serious risk of extinction. More than a half of world billion city dwellers are exposed to level of air pollution that threaten human health. The global raise temperatures by up to 3.6 degrees Celsius, triggering a devastating rise in sea level, and more severe natural disasters and global use of pesticides is causing up to 1 million acute positional incidents each year.
I am Karit Maglunan. I will discuss our daily encounter with environmental degradation. The Earth, once a pristine and vibrant planet, is now grappling with several environmental crises. These crises, foiled with human activities, manifest in various forms, affecting ecosystem, human health, and the overall quality of life. Let's delve into some of the most pressing issues and how they intersect with our daily lives. Pollution, a silent threat. Pollution is a pervasive issue, infiltrates our daily lives in countless ways, from the smog-filled cities to the polluted rivers and ocean. The consequences are far-reaching. One, air pollution. The airway breath is often tainted with harmful pollutant emitted by vehicles, industries, and power plants. This can lead to respiratory illness, heart problems, and other health issues. Number 2 is water pollution. Our water bodies, essential for life, are contaminated with industrial effluent, agricultural runoff, and domestic sewage. This pollution threatens aquatic life, contaminates drinking water sources, and contributes to waterborne disease. Last is land pollution. Improper waste disposal, deforestation, and industrial activities degrade our land, leading to soil erosion, loss of diversities, and land degradation. And let's talk about the global warming. A heating planet's global warming, driven by greenhouse gas emissions, is causing a significant rise in global temperatures. This phenomenon is evident in various ways, like extreme weather events. These more frequent and intense heat wave, drought, floods, and storms are becoming increasingly common. Number 2 is rising sea levels. Coastal cities and islands are at risk of inundation as sea levels rise due to melting glaciers and thermal expansion. Lastly is disrupted ecosystem. Climate change is altering ecosystem, leading to shift in plant and animals' behaviors, loss of diversities, and disruptions to food chains. And I will discuss the desertification, a growing threat. Desertification, the degradation of fertile land into desert, is a serious environmental problem, especially in arid and semi-arid regions. Land degradation, overgrazing, deforestation, and poor agricultural practices contributes to land degradation. Number 2 is water scarcity. Degradation can lead to water scarcity, affecting both human pollution and ecosystem. Last is food security. Food security is reduced to agricultural productivity can impact food security and livelihood. And last is ozone depletion. A thinning shell, the ozone layer, a protective shell in the planet atmosphere, is being depleted by human-made chemicals.
So good day everyone. So the global environmental crisis marked by climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, and resource depletion is an urgent issue driven by human activities. Governments worldwide are increasingly recognizing the need for action, implementing policies aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, protecting natural habitats, and promoting sustainable resource use. So we have the first policy, we have the Paris Agreement. It is a landmark international treaty adopted in 2015 under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Its primary goal is to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level, with efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees. To achieve this, countries are required to set and update their own national targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, known as nationally determined contributions. The agreement also emphasizes the importance of climate adaptation, resilience building, and financial support for developing nations affected by climate change. The Paris Agreement relies on transparency, accountability, and collective action, marking a global commitment to address the climate. So second is we have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are set of 17 interlinked goals adopted in 2015 as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. These goals aim to address global challenges such as poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, climate change, and peace and justice, ultimately striving for a sustainable future for all. Each goal has a specific targets and indicators to measure progress, covering areas such as clean energy, quality education, health and well-being, responsible consumption, and climate actions. The SDGs serves as a universal call to action, encouraging countries to work together and integrate sustainable practices to promote long-term social, economic, and environmental well-being globally. Lastly, we have the Kyoto Protocol. It is an international treaty adopted in 1997 under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change to address global warming by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It was the first agreement to set legally binding emission reduction targets for developed countries, recognizing their historical responsibilities for high levels of emissions. The protocol established specific targets for each participating country, aiming to reduce overall emissions by about 5% below 1990 levels during its first commitment period in 2008 to 2012. A key feature of Kyoto Protocol was its introduction of market-based mechanisms such as emissions trading, the Clean Development Mechanism, and joint implementation to help countries meet their targets cost effectively, while the protocol laid essential groundwork for later climate agreements. Its impact was limited by the lack of participation from some major emitters, including the United States, and the fact that it applied primarily to developed countries.
My name is Axeli Maturan, and I'm here to discuss about food security in environmental crisis. So, what is food security means? Food security means everyone has reliable access to enough nutritious food or healthy life. It involves having food available, being able to access it, utilizing it properly, and maintaining stable access over time. The 4 dimensions of food security. So these are the 4 dimensions of food security. First is availability. This refers to the sufficient quantity of food available. It's influenced by factors like production, stock levels, and imports. Second is access. Even if food is available, it must be accessible to individuals and households. This involves economic access, physical access, and social access. Third is utilization. Food must be utilized effectively to meet national needs. This depends on factors like food safety, hygiene, and dietary knowledge. And lastly, the stability. Must be stable over time, meaning that the people should not be at risk of losing access to food due to stock or stasis. So now, I will be discussing about threats to food security and the strategies to enhance food security. So first, what are the threats of food security? So there are several factors threatening global food security like climate change, poverty and inequality, conflict and political instability, pest disease, and economic shocks. And to address these challenges and ensure food security, these are the strategies that one can be implemented, which are the sustainable agriculture, climate smart agriculture, diversification of food sources, and policy governance. By addressing these challenges and implementing effective strategies, we can work towards a future where everyone has access to sufficient, safe, and have a nutritious food.
Environmental crisis sustainability. Environmental crisis is sustainability focused on building a balanced approach to manage the mitigate environmental crisis in a way that can be maintained over the time preserving natural resources, ecosystem, and overall plenty health. The concept addresses ongoing the potential crises such as climate change, deforestation, water scarcity, diversity loss, and pollution by implementing sustainable practice and policy. Climate policies and programs of government around the world that may address environmental crisis action. Government worldwide are implementing various policy and programs to combat environmental crisis focused on climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss, and sustainable resources management. Climate action and carbon reduction. Paris Agreement. This international treaty signed by 196 countries aim to limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius, compatibility 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. Countries set their own targets to reducing greenhouse gas emission, with some like the EU and UK commitment to net zero emission by 2050. Ocean and marine conservation. Marine protected areas or MAPS. Countries like Australia and the US have designated large portion of their ocean territories as MPAS to protect marine diversity. The sustainable development of an environmental crisis involves managing the address the crisis in a way that prioritizing long-term ecological health, economic resilience, and social well-being. The concept combines immediate action to immediate harm, such as reducing pollution or restoring damaged ecosystem, with strategy that prevent future crises. By promoting sustainable practice, the goal is to resolve the environmental crisis while ensuring that the solution do not create additional issue for future generation. Integrating principle of sustainability such as resourcing, conservation, equitable access, and resilience building.
So my topic is the environmental developmental crisis. The concept of environmental development crisis refers to the complex situation where the development goals societies clash with environmental sustainability. This crisis emerges when economic growth, industrialization, and urbanization lead to environmental degradation, resource or depletion, pollution, and loss of biodiversity. There are the key factors of contributing to the environmental development crisis. First, resource depletion. So, intensive use to natural resources like water, forests, minerals, and fossil fuels to fuel economic growth can result to. And second is climate change. So, climate change, industrial activities, deforestation, and large-scale agriculture contribute to greenhouse gas and emission and leading to the global warming. Last is pollution. So pollution is urbanization and industrial process create a pollution like air, water, and soil. So posing health risk to the population. So there are the main impacts of development and environment. So main impact of development and environment is modifying the environment to fit the needs of society, as the built environment is causing severe effects in global warming or environmental degradation such as ocean and biodiversity loss and ecological crisis and ecological collapse.
I am the Cadet Anuri Kevin, and I am discussing the future of globalization. The future of globalization in the context of the environmental crisis will likely be shaped by the interplay between the ongoing pressures of global interconnectedness and the urgent need for environmental sustainability. Globalization has contributed to the environmental crisis primarily through the growth of carbon-intensive industries, unsustainable consumption patterns, and the exploration of national resources. However, globalization also holds the potential to offer solutions, particularly in the areas of technology, international cooperation, and knowledge exchange. The way the world navigates these forces will determine whether globalization can be a tool for solving the crisis or it will accelerate it further. There are 5 key trends in the future of globalization and the environmental crisis. First is green globalization, the rise of sustainability and a global expectative. In response to environmental crisis, globalization may shift towards more sustainable and environmentally conscious practices. Second is localized and regional approaches to globalization. While some elements of globalization are likely to persist, the environmental crisis could push nations and regions towards greater self-sufficiency and more localized system. Third is global environmental governance. The environmental crisis necessitates greater international cooperation and the strengthening of global governance institutions. Fourth is the technological divide and its impact. Technological innovation, while a potential solution, also poses challenges due to the uneven distribution of resources and capabilities across the globe. Last is the risk of fragmented globalization. The environmental crisis could lead to some level of deglobalization or fragmentation in global trade and politics.